Shanthi Jayakumar, and this is my husband, Jay Jayakumar. The two of us have lived in Austin since 1983, and we moved to Rollingwood in 1984. So we have been in Rollingwood since then. To go back to where we are from originally, we are both from India, South India specifically, and I was born in Mangalore, which is a town on the west coast of India in the state of Karnataka. But my parents lived in Calicut, which is a town on the west coast again in the state of Kerala. My father was in charge of the fisheries department, and he also was the CEO of 3 different companies. So we were raised in Calicut, Kerala, where the language is Malayalam. So we went to school from the kindergarten up to high school at St. Joseph's Anglo-Indian High School. That was the main English medium high school. And so my parents wanted us to be educated in English. It was run by Carmelite nuns, so we feel, looking back, that we got some of the best education with the nuns. My sisters and I have 2 sisters. One is Sumana and the other is Sudha. Sumana continues to live in India, in Mangalore, and Sudha lives in Dubai. So we had, all along, a very, very good education in Calicut. Now, at the time, there were 11 standards in school. So I completed my 11th standard, and then I went to Madras, which is now known as Chennai, to do my college. So I went in and did a 1 year of pre-university, and I stayed in the hostel at Stella Maris College, and I completed it's called a pre-university course. Now, at the end of the pre-university course, I had the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be an exchange student with the American Field Service, which awarded me the opportunity to come be in the United States, to live with an American family for an entire school year and attend school and even graduate from that school. So in 1966, I was one of 50 students, and I was the only one from the state of Kerala to be picked to be junior ambassadors of India, to spend a year under the auspices of the American Field Service. I was placed in a family in Alexandria, Virginia, which is just outside of the capital, Washington, D.C. And I attended Thomas A. Edison High School for the whole year, and I also graduated from there. One of the things that we did as foreign exchange students after the first 3 months was to give speeches, talks, to all kinds of groups. There were Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, church groups, anybody that wanted to know more about India, we would be asked to come and talk to them, answer questions, and tell them more about India. It was a program that has changed my life, that changed my life forever. Because we had kids, I call them kids, they were teenagers, from all over the world. And I'm still in touch with several of them, some from Australia, from France, from Belgium. So it has really promoted a lot of consciousness of the world and people from all parts of the world. So I spent a year in the United States, and at the end of our 1 year, the organization took us around several states where we would once again stay with families for a day or 2, and then we would give talks again. So at the end of the school year, I came back to Chennai, and I resumed my college. I did a Bachelor of Arts in English Literature from Stella Maris College, and I stayed in the hostel again. So what I didn't mention was Stella Maris College was also run by nuns. It was the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary. So I have had my entire schooling, except for the 1 year in Alexandria, under the tutelage of the nuns. And I really credit them with a lot of who I am right now. Something that I might intrigue people to know is I am a Hindu by birth and a practicing Hindu. And many of you know Hinduism doesn't really require people to practice it by virtue of going to a temple every week or something, but it's a way of life. And even though we were Hindus, there was never any discrimination, and we got the best of both worlds because I feel I learned a lot about the Catholic religion from the nuns, and I would like to think that they were also very tolerant of my not being a Catholic. So that's just an aside. Now, when I was in Stella Maris College, I was very active in sports. I participated in it was called the A.L. Mudaliar intercollegiate sports. And I used to do discus and shot put and javelin competitively. And I was also the captain of the college basketball team. And I also did manage to play for the state of Tamil Nadu 1 year. So I spent a lot of time in sports. And I also stood for election. I didn't make it, but I was on this college council. And I was also on the college paper board for it was called the Udaya, and I was the editor during the last year before I graduated. So my college experience was really fantastic. I would like to take a break now and ask Jay to tell you about his life so far in India.
So, my name is Jay Jayakumar, and I was born in Alapi in Kerala, and earliest recollections I have is my father was a math professor in Trivandrum, and so my initial schooling was in Trivandrum in Kerala, which is the southernmost, one of the southernmost parts of Kerala. And I went to high school in Kerala, and when my father was transferred all the way from Trivandrum to the northern part of Kerala in Kasaragod, I went there and did my last year of schooling before I took up engineering in one of the new schools of engineering in Surathkal in Karnataka. And I'd like to say that I was in the first batch of the school there, and I did my electrical engineering there and graduated in 1965 from Surathkal. And then after that, since I had done pretty well in school, I was able to get admission to Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, where I did my master's in electrical engineering. And then after that, I got a teaching assistantship to come to the United States in Dallas, Texas at Southern Methodist University, where I came in 1967, and I did my PhD, which I got in 1971. At that point, I don't know why, but I decided to go back to India just after my graduation, and I went back to Delhi, where I got a job in 1971, in middle of the year, and that's when our parents had, Shanti's parents and my parents had our pictures exchanged and all that. So I took a look at the pictures, and we met each other for briefly, and we decided, okay, this is it, we're going to get married. So December of that year, 1971, we got married, and then we worked in India. I worked in India. We were in India for about 8 years until 1979, and Shanti was working in a bank. I was working from Delhi. I got a transfer to Bangalore, so we were in Bangalore for about 5 years. And at that time, we decided that we should try to come back to the US, and I started applying, and I got a position as a teaching faculty at Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge, where we came in 1979, and in 1980, our first daughter was born. Second daughter was born. The first one was born in India in 1979. 1973. We were married in 1971. And so 1980, our second daughter was born. And at that year, in 1981, after that, when our children were very young, and our second one was a few months old, not even a year, we went on a big expedition of the United States in our little Toyota station wagon. We went around and we did about 8,000 miles in about 4 weeks, and we camped out in a small tent in 8 national parks around the country, and one of the most wonderful experiences that we had here. And 1982, 83, I decided that Baton Rouge was not the place for us long term, and I started looking, and I got a job in Austin, which was just at that time taking off as a big technology center, with Motorola being the pioneer. But I got a job with the Advanced Micro Device A&D, and joined A&D in 1983, and then we moved to Austin. So that's that part of my life. One thing that I forgot to say about Baton Rouge in Louisiana, where I was teaching, was that I wrote a book with my colleague Dr. Johnson, which is Operational Amplifier Circuits Design and Application. This is for undergraduates mainly. It's a general book on operational amplifiers, which by now is pretty outdated, but at that time, kids used to use it.
Nice.
And to continue with our Austin chapter, we came here in '83, bought the property, and then...
Can you put that away?
Yeah. And then...
Can you start again?
So we came to Austin in 1983. I joined Advanced Micro Devices in Austin, and we started looking for a good schooling district for our older daughter, who was 10 years at the time. And we decided we will go to Ames School District, and bought this property, empty property, and then built this house. And this is our very first house in our lifetime. And we've been here for the last 34 years, and hopefully this will be our last house. So luckily we have our children in town, so we are not planning on moving anywhere out of Rollywood or Austin. Well, both our children went through the Ames schooling system. They graduated from Ames, and then our older daughter Pratibha, she was always interested in reading and writing like her mother is, and she was also this editor of the school newspaper for 2 years in Westlake High. And then she went and did her undergraduate at Princeton, at the Woodrow Wilson School of Public Education.
Public affairs.
So she went to Princeton and did her undergraduate there at Woodrow Wilson School of Public Affairs, and then went to Chicago and worked there for a few years. After that, she went to University of Chicago Law School and got a law degree, and worked there in Chicago for a few years, and then came back to Austin. And now she's a judge in the city of Austin with the state, and it's called the ALJ,
So,
Administrative
State
Law
Office.
Judge. It's a state office
of administrative hearing.
administrative hearings. And she's doing quite well. And a few years ago, she got married to Glenn Ford, and they are living in Austin, only 15 miles drive from our house. So that's we are very lucky that she's so close by. Our second daughter, Sidhya, she was born in 1980 in Baton Rouge, and she did her entire schooling, 12 years of schooling in Ames. And after that, she went to Rice at Houston, where she got her degree in Rice in cognitive science, and then worked for about 3 or 4 years, and went back to Rice and got her MBA. And during that time, she met Manish Amanchala, who was born and brought up in Houston, They got married in the year
2005.
2005. And Manish is now an anesthesiologist in Austin. After doing his residency at Baylor, they both moved to Austin. And we are so lucky that they are only about 3-4 blocks from where we live with their 2 children. So we get to meet our grandchildren very, very frequently, every week for sure. So Cynthia was working for a corporation, but after she got the children, she stopped working, and so she now is a mom, and I'm sure that she will start working once the kids grow up a little bit.
So why is it important that women work in your family? So,
well, we always felt that women should be empowered with education, and that's what would make them free and make them decide things for themselves. And we felt we should do the very best for our children, and as far as education is concerned. And so, just develop their faculty and their interests, and we really wanted to be one of our focus in our life. When we were in Baton Rouge, my Shanthi was busy with the baby, and once we came to Austin, then we decided that Shanthi decided she wanted to work. She was working for a bank in India, so she felt that she should continue to work for another bank, and she worked for about a few years, 2 or 3 years. And after that, she was busy with the University of Texas, going back to school and getting her bachelor's in English literature. Once she completed that, she went back to work. She had a home-based business for more than 10 years, exporting parts for oil industry and all that to the Middle East. So she mainly worked from home, shipping items from various parts of the United States to Middle East, and on the phone negotiating and making sure the shipments occurred on time and everything. So she was pretty good with the telephone. She could make things work on the phone, and she was busy with that. And then afterwards, there was a downturn in the oil industry, and the export business for that part was getting more difficult, and so she decided to stop that. And that's at that time that she became more interested in rolling with politics and
I can pick up
all that. And
yeah.
I let her
Yeah.
go from there.
Well, I think Jay has covered most of it, but I just wanted to say a couple of things. Like he said, I had worked in a bank in India for several years, in Calicut for the Corporation Bank, then for Syndicate Bank in Bangalore, and then in New Delhi, and then in Bangalore. And I felt my expertise might be in banking, but it was at a clerical level. I worked for Texas American Bank, which it's been taken over by several banks over the years, but I worked there for a couple of years. And then I started getting interested in going back to school. My degree from India was in bachelor's in English literature, and I realized when I applied to UT Austin that I would need to get another 70 or 80 hours of credit hours to really graduate with another degree from UT. So I did, and this was very instructive, I feel, looking back, for my children. They were in 1st grade and 6th grade, and I was going back to school. And so I was studying at the same time they were, and looking back, I feel maybe I might have encouraged them also. And it was always a question of, Mom, did you get an A in your school, in your class? And I did, so I graduated.
She had a 4.0.
I had a 4.0, so I graduated magna cum laude. But I took my time because I would only take 9 hours per semester, since I was also a mom and taking care of them for piano lessons and gymnastics and everything that moms always do. But after my graduation, my brother-in-law in Dubai approached me and said he would like some help getting contacts in the US, mostly from Houston for the oil field industry. And he was located in Dubai, and he was importing a lot of parts for the oil field industry. So I worked for him from here, supplying parts, like Jay was saying, until 2000, when the downturn happened, and then I decided that I needed to do something else. And I had been very active in our community. I had been a member of the Rollingwood Women's Club since 1984, almost after we moved in. But I started taking a greater interest in the community, and I was appointed the historian in 1994. And what it took was, at every meeting, the club was started in in 58, the city was started in 55. And the Women's Club has been active by meeting every month for 9 months of the year in members' homes. And we have a speaker sometimes, or we have planned activities every month. So people meet, we talk about what needs to be done in the community, and it's a service organization. It's a non-profit. So I was appointed to be the historian in 1994, and I'm proud to say that I am still the historian 24 years later. I have enjoyed it, and I have taken it up very, very seriously. So I maintain the scrapbook, and I have several of those that you can look at. And gradually one thing led to another, and I started attending meetings of the city council. Rollingwood is a 1 square mile city with its own mayor and city council and own police force. We buy water and electricity from Austin, but otherwise we are an independent city. So I started getting interested and attended every single board and commission meeting. And gradually I got appointed to the Board of Adjustment, and I served there for 5 years, and I was the chair of that Board of Adjustment towards the end. And then in 2008, at the urging of several people who had lived in Rollingwood for a long time, I decided I would try being, I think Jay might want to say something here.
So she would go to these meetings and all that, come home and complain to me and say, oh, this is not happening right. We have to change this and all that. And keep saying that. I said, well, why don't you run for the council and change it? That's, I think I'm pretty...
Yeah, and really, one thing that really encouraged me was, there was a saying by Mahatma Gandhi. It was etched on the big poster. It was not a poster, it was etched on the concrete at Bombay Airport, which said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And this happened in 2008. So just to bring it around, 2008 was when I decided that I would try and run for office. And really, I was very successful, even though I was running against 2 incumbents who were known names in Rollingwood. And if I got the top vote, I was really floored. But I really think knocking on every single door and getting to know the people made all the difference. Because they would tell me, you came and knocked on my door, I'm going to vote for you. You're the only one who's come and talked to us. So it really taught me a lesson in governance and in politics. So I served for 2 years, and then in 2010, I decided, well, there were a lot more projects that I could still make a difference in the community. And I decided to run again for re-election. I had stiffer opposition, but I again managed to get the top vote. So I was very encouraged by the support from the community. So I served another 2 years.
So what did you achieve during those 4 years?
Okay.
Please tell me.
Yeah, so since I was a historian, I already knew a lot of the early history of Rollingwood, and I had a deep appreciation for all the people that came before me. And they had sacrificed so much. So it was with a passion that I went after whatever needed to be done in the community. I was given the council position of street liaison. So I got the streets paved, which had not been paved for several years after they had put in a sewer line in the city. And it was my little baby, so to say, to get that approved by the citizens to see whether they wanted to spend the money on paving the streets. There's a certain way you can do that. That is by using part of your sales tax money, and it has to be voted on every 4 or 5 years, so that the citizens would have that part of the money coming in would go directly towards paving the streets. and I started that, and that was one of my major achievements during the time I was on the council. I also did a whole bunch of other things like having videotaping. They didn't get to videotaping, but audio taping of all the council meetings, so that if people could not be at the meetings, they could still listen to what was discussed. And I must say that our meetings would go on till 2 and 3 in the morning because we met just once a month. And so it was important for people to know after the fact what was discussed. So I did that. And there was a whole string of other issues, safety, and I went back in and revived I think it's called the closed, what do you call it? The patrol, the
Closed circuit.
no, it is not closed circuit. It is where the citizens can talk to the council members if they see anything unusual happening. And neighborhood watch. It had been there for many years, and then I was able to revive it. So people would come and be free to tell the council members about what's going on in the neighborhood. And I can list a whole bunch more, but these were the major things. I was very involved in every aspect that I could get involved in. And so that was part of the council experience. And it was really very insightful for me to see how democracy works. I had never had the opportunity to vote in India, and I'm sad I didn't, but that's how it was. And so when I came to US, I could not vote in India, primarily not because of lack of interest, but because we were back and forth, and I really didn't have a chance to be there long enough to participate in the elections. So I got to do it here. And to really recap our experience in the United States, we both came here with our 6-year-old daughter from India with 2 bags each. And we have found a very welcoming community, both in Baton Rouge and here in Rollingwood. And so that's why this is home, and United States is our home, and we are citizens of this country, and our allegiance is here, though we have a lot of relatives still in India, and we go back and forth very frequently. So.
Okay. Are you doing anything for the community now?
Yes. To come back to what I'm doing, I'm continuing to be the historian for the Rollingwood Women's Club. And as part of being the historian, I was instrumental in starting a 5K race in 2005, which was a money raiser. I mean, this is how we raise money in Rollingwood, the Women's Club does. And that has become a very popular race in Rollingwood. We have it every year, and that's become our biggest fundraiser for the community. And all the money gets plowed back into beautifying our public spaces. The Women's Club does a lot of other activities. They have a Rollingwood July 4th parade, which was started 40 years ago by one Mrs. Hazel Maxwell, and I have been actively involved in keeping up that tradition. And thanks to Jay, who has been a great asset in terms of taking photographs at both the 5K race as well as the 4th of July parade. We have a lot of history documented from these events. I am also the photographer for the Rollingwood Women's Club because I am the historian, and just to keep up what goes on at each meeting. So that's what I've been maintaining, a scrapbook for the last 24 years. And that's what I'm busy with right now,
okay.
besides the grandkids. And that has taken center stage ever since they moved here last year. So since they live in Austin and live down the street from us, we stay busy with them.
Great. And have you done any charitable work with any organization here? But you are talking only about Rollingwood.
Yes.
Are you in the main?
Let me come back a little bit to our community. I think you were interested in finding out whether I'm doing anything else other than Rollingwood community. And yes, we belong to a community that's associated with the language Konkani. We call ourselves the Konkani speaking group. In fact, it's called KISS, which stands for Konkanis in Southern States. And way back in '94, we started meeting Konkani families from Houston, Dallas, and Austin. And we meet typically at the Easter weekend at one of the state parks. And we've been having it for until about 2016, we've been meeting. And it has been a great diversity for our children as they're growing up in the United States to also know about their background, about their language, and about their cultural history. So Konkanis are a very, very small community. The language is only a spoken language. There's no script for Konkani, but people have adapted to the local scripts, whether it's Karnataka, Kannada, Kerala, Malayalam, or generally write in English. And so, or even in Hindi, Devanagari. So we meet once a year and for the whole weekend, and we conduct plays, we have singing competitions, we have drama competitions between the three cities, San Antonio, Austin, and Houston. And it has been a very, very good for our children to grow up along with other Konkani youth that they meet once a year, and they still keep up with each other. And I was the editor for, in 2002, the convention, which was held every 2 years. That was a nationwide convention, and it was held in Houston. And so I was the editor for the book it's a publication that's brought out by the host city. And we put together a book with all the articles relating to Konkanis. So I got a lot of articles sourced from India, from Goa, which is a Konkani speaking state. And I will show the book to you gradually. And I also tried to get jewelry, pictures of jewelry, traditions, whether it be birth traditions after the child is born, or whether it's a wedding traditions, it's all in that book. And also the language, how we call our aunts and uncles by a specific term, which indicates whether they're paternal or maternal. So these are kind of things that I put together during that time. It took a year to do, but it's work that I'm very proud of for the Konkani community. And now it's my job to, I guess, instruct my grandkids about the language, and I'm trying. It's a very difficult task to teach them, but both our girls used to go to India every summer to spend time with their cousins, and so they do know the language, which we are happy that they are. And perhaps Jay can pick up and tell you more about.
Yeah, well, it was a joint project, sort of. I was on the computer putting all this together, so used the Adobe software, the publisher, to put the thing together. And so I was holding 2 jobs at that time. I was working at AMD, then come home in the evening and help her with the souvenir.
And you were telling me after AMD what
Yeah.
you're doing.
So I was at AMD when we came to Austin, and I was doing chip design. That was what I did. I was a design manager, and I had a group of people, and we designed the telecommunication chips, and that's what we did. And I was at AMD for about 14 years, and in the mid-1990s, I left AMD, and I started my own consulting company, which with AMD, Austin having a lot of startups at that time, people were always looking for some type of expertise that the startups did not have. They wanted help, and so I did that for a number of years.
What's the name of your consultancy?
My company was called Silicon by Design Incorporated. That is the company that I did. And it was one of the most enjoyable times that I had working basically for myself, but when I was working with these companies, I did meet some of the smartest engineers in the field, and trying to solve some very difficult problems, and did that for a long time. And one of the startups that I was working for, called Luminary Micro, I ended up joining them, and Luminary Micro was acquired by Texas Instruments in Dallas, and so I worked for TI for a couple of years before I left and retired. And I never wanted to work for a big company, I just wanted to work for myself, but ended up working for a big company and then retired. It's about 7 years ago I retired. And that's when I really started doing some of the things that I always wanted to do, like gardening, photography. We started traveling more and more, and we traveled to many different places, and always had my camera bag with me and take a lot of pictures. And we planted some fruit trees and some vegetable gardens and all that. Once the grandchildren were born, they had their own patches of tomato plants, and they would always come and see if the tomatoes are ready for them to pick up. And I have to tell you that our older daughter, when I helped her plant the first tomato trees, it was around 11 o'clock in the morning, and we planted these few trees, and we came inside and had lunch, and then she asked, are the tomatoes ready? And I said, no, not yet. You know, our daughter was expecting the second baby in July. I said, by the time your sister comes out, the tomatoes will be ready. And she was quite pleased with that answer.
That's nice.
So one of the things that we do now is every year we travel. You know, every year we go to a new place internationally. And we go to India, we always try to visit a new place in India. Not a lot of places to see there. And so we've been doing that. So when we came to Rolling Wood in 1984, we were the only people who were not Caucasian. Okay, we were the only non-whites, and I always used to say that everybody knew us, but we did not know anybody. Okay, and that's because we stood so different. Even in school, we had only 3 or 4 Indian kids at that time. And our older daughter, when she went there, you know, she could feel that was there. But within Rolling Wood and within Austin, we always felt welcomed. We made a lot of great friends here, and over the years, we know the community very well. We have great experiences with our friends. Before that, a lot of our friends were Indians, mostly Indians. But after coming to Rolling Wood and having been here for the last 30 years or so, a lot of our friends, very good friends now, are our neighbors, and you know, and that is something that we really like. Having been in this country, we should be knowing the locals and not just people from back home. So I feel very good about that. And we definitely participated in a lot of the civic activities in Rolling Wood. Rolling Wood being a small city, but having all the elements of a big city like police and administration, judge and all that. We really tried to help with various activities, and we participated in them, and particularly Shanthi in many ways, and I was many times on a supporting role there. Because I was also working at that time, and whenever I could participate, I used to enjoy working with her and helping her in whatever way I could. Particularly going to events and taking pictures. And a lot of our friends, when their children were getting married or something, I would be a photographer, not the primary photographer, but a photographer who would take hundreds of pictures at their weddings and all that. Something that we enjoyed, and making connections with our neighbors that way.
Yeah, one of the things that has helped me a lot in staying in Rolling Wood and being active is I walk every morning in the neighborhood. We have a group of 7 or 8 ladies. Many of them are in their 80s, but we all walk and everybody knows us.
And they were called the streetwalkers.
We're called the streetwalkers, lovingly, affectionately called the streetwalkers. And some of the moms have even told us, we time our leaving the house to take the kids to school based on when you pass our house. We are that regular in our walking. But walking around in the neighborhood and getting to know people has been one of the best things for us. And related to that, I have a mentor. Her name is Flo Macklin. She's in her 90s. She's unfortunately had to move into a retirement community, assisted living. due to her back problems. And she and I started taking pictures in 2006. We realized, I think it was probably 2004 or 6, close by, that there were houses being torn down that had been built in the 50s when Rollingwood was first developed in 1955. And so people were coming in and people were moving out due to either they were passed on or they had moved away, and houses were being torn down. And we realized that after a few years, people would not know what Rollingwood used to look in the old days. So we decided to take pictures of every single house in Rollingwood from the street, and we took about 2 or 3 years doing it, a few at a time, and we would then come back and do an after picture. So we have an album, a couple of albums with before and after pictures. Then we got a little more ambitious and decided we wanted to know more about who built the house, who lives there, who are the original owners, and so on. And that's a project that's still ongoing because we have to locate the previous owners and find out when the house was built and who built it, who lived there. Because there was a time in Rollingwood in the 50s when there were only 80 homes. Now we have about 500, which is the max. And everybody knew everybody, including the names of their pets. And pet cat or pet bird, that's how small a community it is. It's such a cohesive community, and we are so fortunate to be living here. So,
Great. Thank you.
okay.
I'm ready.
Okay, so over here I have assembled a little collection of memorabilia from the time I was in school, college, my 1 year in the United States on the American Field Service, and then time on the Rollingwood City Council, the 2 elections, and my work with the Women's Club being the historian. This is one of the books, scrapbooks. And then this is a book with all the pictures of every single home in Rollingwood. And then this lastly is a historical project with newspaper articles starting from the 1950s about Rollingwood. I told you about my schooling in Kerala, Calicut, Kerala. This is from the graduating class when I finished my 11th standard at St. Joseph's Anglo-Indian Girls High School. And this was the graduating class, and that's me right in the center because I was the school leader, so I got to sit in the center.
Oh, 1 minute.
Yeah, sorry. Here we are. That's me. And that's the part of the building of the school. Okay, and these are just pictures from my time at Stella Maris. And this is in the hostel.
Okay.
This is a list of students from the program 1966 to 67 on the American Field Service. And this is a listing of the 50 students that came from India. And it also shows you the addresses of where they lived and with which American family that they spent the school year.
Okay, good. Thank you.